The Meditations are not a record of a man who solved the universe. They are a record of a man who was trying to, every single day, and failing, and trying again. The Greek word he returns to again and again is hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, the part of you that is you. Not your reputation, not your body, not your role. The part that watches all of those things and chooses how to respond to them. Marcus believed that this faculty, this inner governor, could be kept clean and steady even when everything outside it was in chaos. The empire could be burning, the legions could be dying, your children could be dying, and the hegemonikon could still be clear. He believed this. He was not always sure he could do it. That is why he kept writing. Here is what the history books give you, in plain language, because the plain language is devastating enough. Marcus Aurelius and his wife Faustina had at least 13 children. We know the names of most of them. We know when most of them died. At least 8 of them died in infancy or early childhood. He buried child after child in the same city where he was administering the most powerful empire in the world. Faustina herself died in 175 AD on campaign, in a town in the mountains of what is now Turkey. She had been with him for 30 years. She was not in Rome when she died. She was with him in the field where she had followed him. Marcus named the town after her. Faustinopolis. It is a small thing. The kind of small thing a man does when the large things are not available. He wrote about grief in the Meditations. He wrote about it the way a man writes about something he is actively fighting. Loss is nothing else but change, he wrote, and change is nature's delight. The Stoic argument is clean and logical. All things are impermanent. Resistance to impermanence is the source of suffering. Acceptance of impermanence is freedom. He wrote that. He also buried 8 children and renamed a mountain town for his dead wife. The man knew the argument. He was not sure the argument was enough. That is what makes the Meditations worth reading. Not that Marcus had solved the problem of grief, but that he was honest enough, in private, to show you that he had not. Here's the part nobody tells you. Epictetus, the freed slave whose philosophy Marcus had absorbed at 17, had also written about grief. Epictetus had written, "Never say about anything, 'I have lost it,' but 'I have returned it.' When your child dies, you have not lost a child. You have returned to the universe what the universe lent you." It is a beautiful argument. It is also an argument written by a man who, as far as we know, had no children. Marcus read that argument. He agreed with it philosophically. He tried to apply it. And then he buried another child. The discipline of the Meditations is not the discipline of a man who found philosophy easy. It is the discipline of a man who found philosophy necessary, because without it, he was not sure what he would become. And then there was the Danube. The Marcomannic Wars began in 166 AD and lasted in various forms for nearly his entire reign. Germanic tribes, the Marcomanni, the Quadi, others, were pressing at the northern border of the empire with a consistency and a ferocity that the empire had not faced in a long time. Marcus was not trained as a military commander. He had been educated in rhetoric and philosophy. He was, in modern terms, a scholar turned administrator turned warlord. He went to the front anyway. He spent more time on campaign than any emperor since Augustus. He learned military command the way you learn something when you have no choice. Urgently, imperfectly, and with the awareness that failure has consequences you cannot undo. He wrote the Meditations there, in the tent, in the winter, while the Danube froze and the legions held the line. Now watch what happens next. Because the deepest test was not the plague, and it was not the wars, and it was not the grief. The deepest test was something he saw coming for years, helpless to stop it, and he named it Commodus. Commodus was born in 161 AD, the same year Marcus became emperor. He was, for a long time, the only surviving son. Marcus watched him grow up in a way that no previous emperor's son had grown up. On campaign, in military tents, surrounded by soldiers, exposed to the machinery of an empire that was always, it seemed, under some form of siege. Commodus did not take from that environment what Marcus had hoped. He took from it a taste for spectacle, for violence, for the unchecked exercise of power. Marcus saw it. The sources are careful here, but clear enough. Cassius Dio, who lived through the reign of Commodus, describes a young man who was not naturally wicked, but simple-minded, which is one historian's gentle way of saying, not equipped for what was coming to him. Marcus, by the standards of every philosopher he had ever read, should have chosen a different successor. The Stoic argument was obvious. Choose the best man for the role, not the man who shares your bloodline. Hadrian had done it. Antoninus had done it. The result had been the most stable century in Roman history. Marcus named Commodus co-emperor in 177 AD. His son was 16 years old. And here is the moment, the real moment, where the meditations break open. Because you can read every book of that journal and find the philosophy, the clarity, the commands Marcus gave himself about control and acceptance, and the hegemonicon. But you cannot read it and find the answer to this question. Why did he choose Commodus? He knew. He must have known. There is a theory, held by some historians, that Marcus was simply a father. That after everything he had lost, after the children buried, after Faustina gone, he could not also surrender his son. That the one place the philosophy failed him, the one place the ruling faculty dimmed, was in that room, looking at that boy, and choosing. He was not the man who solved the universe. He was a man who tried every single day, in private, in the dark, in Greek, against everything falling apart. And at the end, there was one thing he could not do. He died on March 17th, 180 AD. He was on the Danube frontier, still there, still at the edge of the empire, still in the place he had spent so much of his reign. The cause is not certain. The plague was still moving through the camps. He had not been well for some time. His physician Galen had noted years earlier that the emperor drove himself without mercy, slept poorly, ate little, kept hours that wore at him. He died, by most accounts, asking that Commodus be brought to him. His last recorded words, preserved in the Historia Augusta, which we handle carefully but cannot ignore, are addressed to his officers. He dismisses them. He tells them to go to his son, the new sun, as he himself is already setting. He was 58 years old. The meditations he left behind in a pile of notebooks. Not arranged, not edited, not sent to a publisher or a patron or a friend. Just left. And now we can return to the question planted at the very beginning. Why did he never show the meditations to anyone? The answer is not that he was modest. The answer is not that he thought the writing was poor. The answer is this: the meditations were not finished. They were never going to be finished. Because the project of the meditations, the project of becoming the person he described in their pages, was not finished either. He was not showing you a solution. He was showing himself a direction. Every entry is a man saying, "This is who I am trying to be today. Today I failed. Tomorrow I will try again." He wrote it for no one because it was not for display. It was for survival. The most powerful man in the world was using a private notebook to stay human, to remind himself, in the middle of an empire, in the middle of a plague, in the middle of grief, that there was still a self-worth governing. He never published it because it was not done. He is not done yet. You are still reading it. Almost 2,000 years have passed since Marcus Aurelius sat in that tent and wrote by lamplight. The tent is gone. The empire is gone. The plague is gone. Or at least that particular plague. Others came after. Commodus ruled for 12 years and was strangled in his bath by a wrestler he had insulted. The dynasty ended. Rome eventually fell, in the way that everything eventually falls. The notebooks survived. They survived by accident, passing through Byzantine libraries, copied by monks who may not have entirely understood what they were preserving. They arrived eventually in the hands of editors who titled them and printed them and sent them out into a world that has not stopped reading them since. Here is what I want to leave you with. 3 things. The first, you do not control the storm. You control the room inside your chest. Marcus lived through plague, war, personal grief, political betrayal, and the slow devastation of watching his own son become someone he could not reach. None of that broke the meditations. Not because Marcus was unaffected, he was devastated repeatedly, but because he kept returning to the one thing no one could touch, how he chose to respond. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate, not passive resignation, active embrace. You take what comes and you choose what it makes you. The second, the private disciplines matter more than the public performance. Marcus Aurelius was, to Rome, the philosopher king, the wise emperor, the man Plato had dreamed about, and all of that was real. He genuinely tried to govern justly, to limit corruption, to protect the people in his care. But the thing that made him capable of any of it was not the public role. It was the private notebook. The daily return to his own failures. The willingness to write, in Greek, in the dark. I did not do this well today. Tomorrow I will try again. No audience, no applause, just the discipline of honest accounting. You do not need an empire to practice this. You need a notebook and the courage to tell the truth in it. The third, and this is the one I want you to carry, you are allowed to fail your own philosophy. You are allowed to name Commodus and love him anyway. You are allowed to know the argument about grief and still grieve. You are allowed to believe, genuinely believe, in the power of the hegemonicon, the ruling faculty, and still have days when it goes dark. The meditations are not the record of a man who got it right. They are the record of a man who kept trying. That is all Marcus Aurelius was. A man who kept trying, every day in the dark, in a language that was not even his native tongue, against every force the universe could organize against him. He did not solve the universe. He just refused to stop working on it. And maybe, if you are honest with yourself about the distance between who you are and who you are trying to be, that is the only solution there ever was.